Eagles family, hold that energy, because what's happening in Philly right now is absolutely insane. Greenheart Eagle. While the rest of the league looks the other way, thinking the game's calm, our front office pulled the trigger again. Quiet, precise, and with that touch only those who truly understand culture and vision can pull off. And the result? An offense that didn't just improve, it changed its identity. It's back to being physical, creative, and confident enough to make any defense think twice before lining up. But hold on, Birds fans, because today's video is going to show you how those under-the-radar moves have become the driving force behind this new era in Philly. So before we dive in, smash that like button to support the content, because this is made by someone who lives and breathes Philadelphia. And drop it in the comments. Go Eagles, I believe. Let's talk, because the championship DNA is back in the city of brotherly love. Come with me, because in Philly, the game never stops. Howie Roseman did it again, the kind of quiet, under-the-radar moves that don't flood social media in the moment but later make everyone go, how the hell did Philly pull that off? Because when you look closely at the last couple of weeks, the Eagles' offense hasn't just improved, it's transformed. And the fingerprints all lead back to two names barely whispered about when the trades happened, Fred Johnson and Tank Bigsby. Let's start with Big Freddie. The moment that deal was announced, most fans shrugged. Depth move, they said. Insurance, others claimed. But if you've been watching the trenches lately, you know something's different. The line looks meaner, more coordinated, more confident. And the common thread? Number 74. Fred Johnson came back to Philly after spending a short stint with Jacksonville, and it's wild how big of a difference his return has made. He's not a star, not the kind of player who'll dominate headlines, but what he's become is invaluable. A sixth man on one of the best offensive lines in football, a tone setter in that newly revived jumbo package, and maybe the most underrated spark in this team's midseason surge. When the Eagles traded a 2026 7th-round pick for him, yes, a 7th, it barely made a ripple, but that small investment is paying off in massive ways. Johnson's been on the field for key snaps during the Birds' two most explosive offensive performances of the season. His power and technique have given the Eagles flexibility, allowing Nick Sirianni and offensive assistant Kevin Patullo to get creative again. Let's break it down. During the first 6 weeks, Philly used their jumbo set. That's 6 linemen on the field, just 3 total times. 3. The run game was inconsistent, protection was shaky, and the physical identity we all expect from this team just wasn't there. Then came the turning point, Week 7 against Minnesota, fresh off a bad loss to the Giants. The Eagles lined up jumbo 14 times that game. The following week, 10 more. And suddenly, everything clicked. Against New York, with Fred Johnson lined up alongside Lane Johnson, the Eagles ran the ball down the Giants' throats. Literally. They ran for nearly 250 yards as a team, Saquon Barkley and Tank Bigsby both eclipsing 100 yards, something this team hadn't done with 2 backs in 12 years. When Fred was on the field, Philly averaged an absurd 10.87 yards per carry. 10.87. That's video game level production. And the biggest play of the game, the one that set the tone early, came off that jumbo look. Second play from scrimmage, Barkley takes the handoff, reads the lane, and bursts 65 yards untouched to the end zone. It wasn't magic, it was textbook execution. Jordan Mailata sealed the edge. Landon Dickerson and Lane Johnson climbed to the second level. Brett Toth handled Dexter Lawrence, who, by the way, had been wrecking games for weeks, and Fred Johnson delivered the kind of double block coaches replay on loop in the film room. That play encapsulated everything this team's been missing: aggression, timing, trust, and rhythm. You could almost feel the weight lifted off their shoulders, because earlier this season, the line was missing those small details. The half-second hesitation that kills a run, the mistimed reach that opens a gap for a linebacker. But now, with Fred in the mix, the chemistry's back. And the analytics back it up too. The Eagles' expected points added per play, basically how efficient they are, has tripled with Fred Johnson on the field. Tripled. That's not coincidence. That's coaching and personnel aligning perfectly. Sirianni deserves credit for adjusting mid-season, and so does Jalen Hurts, who reportedly pushed for more balance and variation in the offensive looks. DeVonta Smith even mentioned in an interview that Hurts and the receivers were calling out defensive tendencies, helping set up those big play moments. That's leadership from top to bottom. But Roseman wasn't done. While everyone was obsessing over trade deadline blockbusters that never happened, Howie quietly made another move, one that's already paying dividends. Tank Bigsby. When that trade went down, many wondered why Philly was giving up future 5th and 6th round picks for a running back who hadn't really found his groove in Jacksonville. But sometimes it's about the fit, not the stats. Bigsby was a downhill bruiser at Auburn, a player who thrived on contact, fed off collisions, and played with that edge you can't coach. And against the Giants, he reminded everyone exactly who he is. 9 carries, 104 yards, 11.6 per carry. That's efficiency you only get from confidence and trust from the play caller. He's not just another backup. He's the kind of runner who complements Barkley perfectly. When Saquon needs a breather or shifts into the slot to create mismatches, Bigsby keeps the pressure on defenses. He punishes them. And with both under contract through 2026, the Eagles suddenly have a backfield that feels sustainable, not just explosive for a few weeks. And the beauty of it all is how seamlessly this reshaped backfield fits into what the Eagles want to be: physical, unpredictable, and capable of wearing teams down across 4 quarters. Think about it. For 2 late-round picks and a mid-round flyer, Howie Roseman essentially built a rotation that's given this team balance again. No more leaning too heavily on Hurts' legs. No more predictable third and short calls. Just fresh bodies, pounding the rock, dictating tempo. You can see the swagger coming back in the offensive line's body language, in Barkley's cuts, even in Hurts' cadence at the line. This offense looks alive again. And it all started with a pair of moves no one saw coming. Because if this isn't just a hot streak, if this is the real thing, then what we're witnessing is one of Howie Roseman's classic mid-season masterclasses. The kind of quiet roster recalibration that separates Philly from almost every other front office in the league. Think about it. While other teams panic and overspend at the trade deadline, Howie identified undervalued assets who fit the Eagles' DNA, toughness, smarts, and versatility, and got them for the price of loose change. Fred Johnson, for a 7th-round pick, has become more than a depth piece. He's been a chess move. The jumbo package that started as a situational wrinkle has evolved into one of the offense's core weapons. It's not just a gimmick, it's a statement. When Philly rolls out 6 linemen, defenses know what's coming, and they still can't stop it. That's dominance born from physicality and precision, not trickery. And you can see how it's opened up the entire offense. Defenses now have to respect the run again, which means those safeties creep down. And when that happens, boom, Jalen Hurts gets the green light to hit DeVonta Smith or A.J. Brown over the top. That 79-yard bomb to Smith against Minnesota wasn't luck. It was the direct result of setting up tendencies through formations like this. That's how smart offenses operate. They build pressure one look at a time until the dam finally breaks. But the other half of this transformation, Tank Bigsby, might be even more intriguing long-term. Because it's not just about what he did in one breakout game, it's about the identity he brings. You can feel his presence when he checks in. Defenders square up differently. You see linebackers hesitate before filling gaps. That's what a power back does. He changes the psychology of the game. Bigsby runs with a mix of controlled rage and balance that Philly fans have always loved in their runners. It's shades of LeGarrette Blount in 2017, that same defiant, downhill energy that wears you out by the 4th quarter. When Saquon and Tank are rotating, the defense never gets a break. One slices you apart with cuts and burst, the other runs right through your chest. And that balance is giving this offense a rhythm it's been missing since the start of the year. You can also see how much it's helping Hurts. Earlier in the season, he looked like he was pressing, trying to do too much, carrying too much of the offense himself. But now, with the run game stabilizing, he looks freer. He's trusting the system again. Play action looks sharper. The RPOs feel cleaner. He's taking what the defense gives him and, more importantly, he's not forcing things. When your quarterback's comfort level rises, the entire offense elevates with him. And what about Nick Sirianni? He deserves credit, too. A lot of coaches would have stayed stubborn, forcing the same schemes and hoping the problems fix themselves. But Sirianni adapted, and he did it fast. He leaned into the strengths of his roster instead of the ego of his playbook. By trusting in Kevin Patullo and the offensive staff to expand that jumbo package, he's shown that Philly is still one of the most self-aware, adaptable teams in the league. It's also worth noting the locker room response. Players have talked about how much energy these new faces have brought. Fred Johnson, especially, has become one of those glue guys, quiet, tough, and respected. His teammates love his story, the grind, the way he stayed ready. That's the kind of presence that doesn't show up in stats but builds championship chemistry. And Bigsby? He's hungry. You can tell by the way he runs that he feels like he has something to prove, like he's carrying every bit of frustration from Jacksonville onto the field with him. That's the kind of motivation that makes a difference in December football. When you add it all up, these aren't just transactions, they're tone setters. Philly's offense looks meaner. The trenches are back to imposing their will. And when that happens in this city, it's usually a sign that something special is brewing. So here's the bottom line. 2 low-profile trades, 2 players most teams overlooked, and suddenly the Eagles are running like a machine again. That's the Howie Roseman way. Find value where others see nothing. plug them into a culture that amplifies their strengths, and watch the results take care of themselves. Now, as we head into the heart of the season, the question becomes, can this formula hold up when the lights get brighter and the stakes get higher? Can Fred Johnson's impact and Tank Bigsby's emergence carry the Eagles through the stretch and into another deep playoff run? Let me know what you think down in the comments. Are these moves the start of something special, or are we just catching lightning in a bottle? Drop your take, hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and stick around. More Eagles coverage is coming your way, with the next video waiting right here on your screen. Because let's be honest, this is exactly the kind of story that defines Philadelphia football. It's never about the flash or the headlines. It's about finding grinders, fighters, and underdogs who fit this city's mentality. Fred Johnson and Tank Bigsby weren't the splashy names fans were refreshing Twitter for during the trade window. But now, they're the embodiment of what Philly stands for: hard work, resilience, and results. Watch how this team moves now. You can feel the confidence. The line isn't just blocking, they're bulldozing. The backs aren't just hitting gaps, they're setting tones. And that's what happens when the front office, coaching staff, and players all pull in the same direction. It's a ripple effect that reaches every level of the roster. When Saquon Barkley broke that 65-yard run, it wasn't just 6 points on the board, it was a statement. You could see it on the sideline. The linemen were chest bumping, the defense was fired up, and even Sirianni had that look like, this is who we are again. And from that point forward, everything about this team has felt sharper, more intentional. The offensive rhythm is different now. Drives are sustained. The time of possession battle is tilting in their favor, and the playbook feels open again. Hurts is commanding the field like the all-pro quarterback he is. The receivers are benefiting from clean play-action looks, and the energy at Lincoln Financial Field has that unmistakable hum, the sound of a city believing again. And you know who loves that kind of football the most? The defense. When the offense controls the clock, down